السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, welcome back to another edition of our Wednesday Q&A session. As always, if you have a question, please send an email, mufti@islamstl.org, and inshallah we will do our best to answer your question on Wednesdays. So we have a few questions today to go over, inshallah. The first question has to do with something that we are currently seeing in the news right now, and that is the aspect of the COVID vaccine. So the question that is mentioned over here is, as we see, the COVID vaccine will be coming out soon. Is it permitted for us to use this vaccine or to take this vaccine? Now, I think this question may have been asked because there were some rulings that were coming out from ulama in some other areas like South Africa. Not all the South African ulama, but there were a couple maybe who were saying impermissibility and whatnot. But we know, first of all, that any vaccine, including the COVID vaccine, the same ruling as any other medication, that would apply here with the COVID vaccine ruling as well. So first of all, we know that with any aspect of medication, medication is taken when there's a sickness or when there's some type of disease or ailment or whatever it may be. We know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created everything, including sicknesses. Sicknesses were created as a means of test or a trial. And for us as Muslims, sicknesses are also considered a blessing. Along with the test and a trial, they're also a blessing because it's a means of cleansing one's sins. It's a means of maintaining sabr and patience, relying and depending upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only then created sicknesses, but He also created their cures. And that's in the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So as Muslims, we know that we are allowed to visit the doctor. We are allowed to take medication, so on and so forth. Now, as long as we as believers, as long as we believe that a cure comes because it's the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it's not this doctor who gave me the cure, it's not this medicine that gave me the cure, but it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who used that doctor or who used that medication that we take as a sabab or a means in this world to be a cure of that sickness that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had created. So that is what we believe as a Muslim and as a believer. That we know that these particular vaccines for COVID, and I cannot speak from a medical standpoint since I'm not a physician or anything. Alhamdulillah, we have plenty of physicians in our community who can probably speak better on that. But we know the vaccine was researched and it was developed quite quickly because of the urgency factor, how COVID completely, you can see how it shut down the world almost. And we know that some countries have already approved of it, including the United Kingdom, Great Britain. And I just read a ruling a couple of days ago from the British Islamic Medical Association regarding the vaccine that was ruled as approved over there in Great Britain, and that is the Pfizer vaccine that was approved in the United Kingdom. So first of all, it said that, number one, it said that there are no animal ingredients or impermissible haram ingredients that are used in this particular vaccine. And secondly, according to their trials and the tests, that the product itself is safe and it is effective. Right now, regarding the ingredient issue itself, first of all, some scholars mention that the process of making the vaccine is so extensive that it changes the haqiqah, or it changes the reality of the substance that is within the particular vaccine. So basically, what starts as an animal ingredient, even if that was there, the nature of it is completely changed. It's chemically changed. And that makes the original impurity go away, since it is a completely different thing after the chemical change that occurs. But other scholars say that for something which is urgent, for example, a COVID vaccine, say there's only one COVID vaccine and that vaccine has animal ingredients and there's no other alternative cure that is out there, or alternative means of cure. There's no alternative medication that is out there except the one that has the animal ingredient. because of the urgency factor, especially for those who are maybe first responders and those who are in that particular field, or those who are very, very they are susceptible to that particular to COVID itself, that even in the case if there was impermissible ingredient, it would be allowed for them to use that because there is no alternative medicine available. So other ulama say that. That's another thing to remember. But at the end, medicines are of course administered on the assumption that the benefits outweigh the harms, and here we see that when it comes to the particular vaccine. Now, at the same time, those who are a bit skeptical and maybe those who do not want to take the vaccine, for example, they don't want to take it immediately, maybe they want to see some more results and whatnot, we should also not criticize those people as well, and we should make sure that we keep away from saying evil things and bad things about such people also. So that's the ruling with regards to the COVID vaccine. Second question is very simple. And I think this has been answered before, but since it was asked, I will say it again. If one makes ghusl, or if one takes a bath or a shower, is wudu also completed? Meaning, would wudu have to be done separately? So the answer in the Hanafi madhab is that yes, wudu is also completed and wudu is done. There is no, the aspect of niyyah or intention is not necessary for wudu. So one can even jump in a swimming pool and come out and their wudu would be done. Because in the Hanafi madhab, there is no aspect of niyyah or intention when it comes to wudu. So the wudu would be done in that particular case. Okay, next question is a two-part question. Couple of interesting questions here. First of all, is it permitted for a child, or an adult for that matter, to bow in a martial arts class to a teacher or fellow student? So we know in martial arts classes, I guess when it comes to the culture of martial arts, out of respect, the tradition is to bow to the fellow student or bow to the teacher, whatever it may be. And similarly, is it allowed to bow at the end of a play or performance towards the audience, as a means of saying thank you and whatnot, respecting the reaction of the audience, I guess you can say, after you're done, when they're clapping for you or whatnot. That's part one of the question. The second question, I guess let me answer the first question first, and I'll mention the second question. So now this aspect of bowing, the ulama say that this aspect of bowing to others is impermissible and it is not allowed. Bowing is something which is reserved for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Now, first of all, there's a couple of things. If one bows to another person with the intention of ibadah or worship, that constitutes of kufr. That's shirk. You are associating a partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it is done for another reason, not worship, but for respect or whatnot, it is impermissible. It is wrong to do that. In there's hadith, part of the hadith, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it mentions a man asked, قال رجل يا رسول الله الرجل منا يلقى أخاه أو صديقه ينحني له قال لا. So a man asked that, O Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that if a man from amongst us were to meet his brother or to meet his friend, then should he bow to him? Yani as a means of greeting, should he bow to him? Rasulullah said no. Later on in the hadith, Nabi Sallallahu approves of the aspect of handshaking, right? So that is something, and it's mentioned from other hadith that the Yemenis were the ones who introduced the practice of handshaking, which Nabi Sallallahu loved and that approved. Now, some may say that, bowing is not for ibadah, but it's for respect. It's not for the intention of worship. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed for us ways of greeting. We should greet each other with salam and with superior words. If somebody says assalamu alaikum, you respond with wa alaikum assalam. If somebody says assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, you respond with at least wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. And if somebody says assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, you respond in the like sense as well. That is what you call respect and whatnot. Now, previous nations, some people bring examples up from previous nations. Like in the Quran, وَرَفَعَ أَبَوَيْهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا. In Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the incident after Yusuf alayhi salam unites with his parents once again. When they come to Misr and they come to Egypt and he hasn't seen his parents in a long time, what does he do? He falls in prostration and he falls in sajda out of respect and out of honor for his parents. So some people say, Yusuf alayhi salam made sajda to his parents. It's in the Quran. Now, the answer to this is in his particular time and in his sharia, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it permissible. It was permitted to make this sajda out of honor and out of respect. But in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this particular ruling was abrogated. It was mansukh. It was a ruling that was not there in our ummah. So we are not allowed to make that particular gesture to another person. That is something that you have to do. So when it comes to the aspect of martial arts classes or after a performance, respectfully tell the instructor and the teacher that, look, my religion does not allow me to do that. That is reserved for my creator and my Lord alone. Rather, when it comes to when it comes to respecting someone, I can, we can do a handshake or we can do something like that. That is something which we can do. But bowing before the other person is something which we cannot do. That is, in our deen and in our sharia. And when you talk to instructors, see, a lot of times what happens is people are shy to tell the instructor that. But what I've experienced from my side is whenever you go to someone and you tell them about your religious tradition and your religious rulings, they respect that and they actually give you more respect. So you should speak out, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for the person to do that. So that's very important. The second part of the question that the person asked was, if there is najasa or impurity that is present on one's clothing, is it permissible to wash this article of clothing with other dirty but not necessarily najis clothing in a washing machine? Will this cause everything else in the cycle to become impure, to be covered in that najasa? So, for example, if there's urine on a shirt and you put it in the washing machine with other clothings, with other articles of clothing that need to be washed, but they don't have najasa on them, would it cause them to become impure? So the answer to this is no, it would not. And the ulama have given this ruling, the contemporary scholars have given the ruling of a modern washing machine as sufficient to clean and purify the clothes. If you look at the washing machine, what happens is initially the water comes out, the soap, it washes it, then the water drains, and then again new water comes and whatnot. So this whole process, it gets rid of the impurity, and then there's no sign of the impurity that is on there either. And even if there is some sign of the impurity afterwards, if it's washed, and if there is, you could try to manually remove it. But even if you do that and doesn't come up, it would be considered as not impure anymore, as long as one makes that particular effort. So at the end of the day, modern day washing machines, they do take away this najasa. And while answering this, I also wanted to add a second portion, which was not asked in the question, but it's also something that people ask. That what about the modern methods of dry cleaning? When you go to the dry cleaners, there's a different method that they use. They use some type of chemicals or whatnot in order to clean the clothes. So if you go to there's a particular organization of young ulama, of muftis that are around the country. It's called the American Fiqh Academy. And if you look at their ruling, the scholars of the American Fiqh Academy, they research this aspect extensively. The modern methods of dry cleaning, does it purify the clothing? Would it be enough to purify? So they had ruled that yes, it would remove the impurity and the clothing would be considered pure after. So even if you take it for dry cleaning, it will be considered pure after the methods that they use. Next question, is it preferable to make wudu before sleeping? So wudu, of course, when we think of wudu, we always think of it being a mean, not only physical purity, but spiritual purity for one's salah or reading the Quran or whatever else it may be. But Sharia actually encourages one to remain in the state of wudu as much as possible. And accordingly, from the hadith, it's mentioned that it is preferable to make wudu and to be in the state of wudu before going. Hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says when you go to bed, then make wudu just as you would for salah, and then lie down on your right side, and then make the dua, Allahumma aslamtu nafsi ilayk wa fawwadtu amri ilayk wa alja'tu dhahri ilayk rahbatan wa raghba ilayk la malja'a wa la manja mink illa ilayk amantu bi kitabik alladhi anzalta bi nabiyyik alladhi arsalta. So Allah, O Allah, I surrender to you and I entrust all of my affairs to you and depend upon you for your blessings, both with hope and fear of you. And there is no fleeing from you, and there is no place of protection and safety except with you, O Allah. I believe in your book, which you have revealed, and in your Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whom you have sent. So that's a beautiful dua, and it's mentioned in the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's another hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says, whoever goes to his bed, this is a hadith in Tirmidhi, whoever goes to his bed while in the state of purity and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dhikr before they retire to sleep until slumber overtakes him, he shall not get up at any hour of the night and ask Allah for something from the good of the world and the hereafter, except that Allah will grant it for him. So number one, we see the aspect of it being from a sunnah, but number two, not only is it encouraged, but it's a means of reward and it's a means of acceptance of dua as well. So beautiful hadith that we can see that give the evidences of making wudu before one goes to sleep. Okay, next question. Is it allowed to bake cakes or make cakes that are in the shape of the Quran, that are like the Quran with Quran written on it, I guess, making it like to be a Quran, or the Kaaba, or the shape of the Kaaba, or likewise. I guess maybe, for example, if somebody finishes their hifz or something, or make a cake with a Quran shape, or somebody goes for Hajj and they come back, you're having a occasion for them, maybe you make a cake that has a Kaaba shape or whatnot. Symbols that have a religious honor or significance. Is it allowed to make cakes in these particular shapes, or is it considered disrespect, as these things would then be cut and they would be eaten? So now we have to remember that things like the Quran, the Kaaba, all of these things related to Deen, they deserve the utmost respect and utmost honor and reverence. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually in Surah Hajj, He mentioned, وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ, that the one who honors the symbols of Allah, then such things emanate from the piety of the heart. So we talk about respecting and honoring those symbols of Sharia, including these things. It's the pious people who do that, who reverence and respect to these symbols. So baking cakes that resemble these things, it goes against the honoring of these symbols of Deen. At the end of the day, what are these things? What happens with the cake? It's cut, it's eaten up, and then it becomes impurity in one's body. So the ruling is that it's strongly disliked and advised. It's advised to stay away from doing this particular action, to avoid this. Next question: can I contribute sadaqah or optional charity towards the cause of Muslim youth who would be awarded prizes for their work? So the answer is, in a nutshell, the answer is yes. But sadaqah itself is of two types. Now, when we talk about zakah and whatnot, that itself is also a form of sadaqah. Obligatory sadaqah, which includes zakah, which includes sadaqatul fitr, what we give on the day of Eid, for example, or kathara, payment that is done for different violations that occur, fidya, for those who cannot fast, and so on. This is all in the category of obligatory sadaqah. The second aspect is voluntary sadaqah. Some people call this lillah, but it's voluntary sadaqah, which can be given for any cause, or not necessarily to a Muslim, can be given to non-Muslims as well, or to any organization or whatnot in any way. So it is permissible to give that aspect, which is voluntary sadaqah, for this particular cause. Okay, the final question that we have, the last question that we have today. Many Muslims say RIP, or rest in peace, when they hear of non-Muslims passing away. Or on social media, I always see Muslims writing rest in peace when they see that somebody who is non-Muslim has died. Is this allowed? Is it allowed to say RIP for non-Muslims? What about for other Muslims? So when you say something like rest in peace, you're essentially saying a dua. Rest comfortably in your grave, be in peace. That is something, as we know from an Islamic standpoint, that is something which is reserved for those who had iman, those who answered the questions in the grave in a proper way. It is something that is reserved for them. So the ulama say it is not allowed to say this for those who passed away in a state of kufr, right? Rather, what we should do is for the relatives of those who are grieving when one of their relatives has passed away in kufr, we should comfort them by saying something like "sorry for your loss," or may you be in comfort, something like that. Or anything that we can do to assist them or help them in their time of grief. That's also a means of da'wah. That is what we should do as a Muslim and as a believer. Comfort those who are grieving at that particular time. Now, whatever is going on for those who passed away in a state of kufr, that is their fate lies in the hands of Allah. Those who passed away in a state of kufr, their fate lies in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that